Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video, I get this question rather a lot. Should I apply for my long-term visa in Thailand or abroad in my home country? And I'm going to take this from the standpoint of applying in one's home country. Say, let's use the United States, because that's where I'm from, and that I do tend to deal with a preponderance of Americans. It depends. It really depends, depending on where you are located versus the overall situation and the visa category being sought in Thailand will sort of change the analysis. So as I say, every visa case is somewhat like a snowflake. They're sort of all unique. In certain instances, things like retirement visas and things sometimes can be more easily dealt with by post in the United States, by dealing with a consulate or embassy in the United States at a distance. You know, one can send their stuff in by a courier, you know, like FedEx or something, and not have to actually physically go to an immigration office, which anyone who's ever been to a Thai immigration office, I can tell you, it's not the most fun experience in the world. It's not so much that it's unpleasant, it's just rather boring. One's basically just waiting around in the line to process paperwork. And applying in one's home country oftentimes can result in a more direct approach and an approach that occurs sort of at a distance that doesn't take up a great amount of an individual's time more than anything. That being said, certain visa categories, especially long-term visas, effectively cannot be sought in an individual's home country. These types of visas, like the B visa and the O visa, as explained in other videos, more and more Thai embassies and consulates are very much constricting the issuance of long-term or so-called multiple entry one-year visas. So in certain circumstances, one doesn't really have a choice. Although oftentimes it's easier, I do get the call, especially in business visa matters, where individuals will say, well, I'm in the US for another couple of weeks, I'm just going to come to Thailand on a 30-day stamp. I often ask people to pause on that notion, take a step back and basically say, you know, don't leave the, it might be easier, depending on the circumstance, it might be easier to get a 90-day visa, say a business visa in the USA. One comes in B status and then can use that as a platform for things like work permit application, etc. These kinds of things may be better dealt with abroad. There are certain circumstances where coming in on a 30-day stamp may actually work out better, depending again on the status and whether or not convertibility from that 30-day stamp into an actual visa is possible with minimal fuss and resource expense. In some cases it may be. Again, each and every one of these cases is individual. It's been my experience that front-loading anything with respect to immigration is always a good idea. So in many cases, probably dealing with something in one's home country is going to be a bit easier than dealing with something in one's when one comes to Thailand. Another thing to keep in mind with respect to that is the issue of translations. Oftentimes, in many cases, when I've dealt with embassies in, say, the UK or the United States, or any of the English-speaking countries at least, dealing with the Thai embassies and consulates in the English language is easier in those countries because the officials posted to those posts oftentimes are fluent in English. It's probably one of the prerequisites for them to be posted in an English-speaking country is at least some level of fluency in the English language. And for that reason, dealing with documentation and stuff through an embassy in one's home country might be a little bit easier because the individuals in that country can process things like paperwork that's entirely in English without needing things like a Thai translation. Again, it's going to depend on, it's going to be case specific, but oftentimes it's going to be a little bit easier to front load some of that stuff with the initial embassy processing an initial visa request rather than sort of dealing with it all here in Thailand in a system that in many ways can be kind of overloaded as far as bureaucratically processing through all of this paperwork. I do have to tip my hat to some degree to the immigration officers here, like say at Chiang Watna. They're dealing with a huge caseload daily, just tons of people waiting outside, beating down their door to process paperwork every day. Yeah, it's going to be a slower process oftentimes than dealing with these matters at an embassy abroad, like say in the United States, which just doesn't have the same level of caseload processing through their consular division.